many generations before me. In school, or if you are in school, that took place while you were in school. How many of you was that a thing? Okay, so it's still frequent. Okay, awesome. I really had no idea, and I really wanted to know the answer to that question. But obviously, I want to tell you a little bit about my own personal experiences of show and tell. That was probably one of my favorite things that we did during elementary school, like ever. Obviously, once we got into middle school and high school, it was not something that we did anymore. But I can remember several of the show and tell times that we had, or the days that we had, where we got to all bring in, something that we really liked, that we really valued, and to be able to get up there in front of the class and say, this is the item that I brought, and I brought it because of this, and then kind of tell them everything about that item. I can remember a couple different things that I took. One thing that I took, and I think I actually did it multiple years, there were, I don't know how familiar you are with Power Rangers, but there are Megazords where they take all the different parts of the Zords that they had, and they all kind of own toy Megazords and bringing them that one year. We didn't do show and tell. And all the other desks. In fact, it was is she allowed and that was your desk for the week. Desk in whatever you want. That this cool thing. That was the coolest thing. It's really cool, and getting to show room. But those experiences find the other people. It's being able to take something that you care about so much and being able to take it in front of other people and be able to say, important to me. Important. They're going to because of course it's something that you want. If you would go ahead and turn to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10. In Luke chapter 10, we're basically right in the center of the ministry of Jesus. Several different things have happened right before this chapter. Teaching them and showing them fed and ministered to 5,000 people. Not only that, but shortly after that, he also took Peter and James and John up onto a mountain, and they spent time there. And so a lot of different things are going on kind of right before we get to the passage that we're going to look at. And what we're looking at is kind of this moving forward of the gospel, this moving forward of the life of Christ, and the sending out of these 72 people. And we see that these 72 people were excited about sharing. Of course, we understand that the way that this worked was Jesus basically put them into groups of two. And he told them that they were going to be going out and going to be traveling into these different towns. And we're actually going to pick up in Luke chapter 10, beginning with verse 3. I'm going to read that for us now. It says, "Go your way. Behold, I am sending you out as lambs in the midst of wolves. Carry no money bag, no knapsack, no sandals, and greet no one on the road. Whatever house you enter, first say, 'Peace be to this house.' And if a son of peace is there, your peace will rest upon him. But if not, it will return to you. And remain in the same house, eating and drinking what they provide, for the laborer deserves his wages. Do not go from house to house. Whenever you enter a town and they receive you, eat what is set before you. Heal the sick in it and say to them, passage, Jesus doesn't say, all right, so I'm going to send you out to just the nicest people. You're going to basically knock on the doors of some of the most receptive people that you've ever met. Sure, that's going to happen, but it's not going to be that easy. He says instead, I am sending you in the midst of wolves. He's saying that this is not going to be an easy task. This is not going to be a bunch of people that you're friends with that are just going to easily receive anything and everything that you say to them. But what he's telling them to do is he's saying, go out to these cities. Go into these cities, go to these places, and you're going to tell them about the kingdom of God. You're going to tell them about the kingdom of God. Now, as we think about this mentality, I want to kind of already relay this back to ourselves. And we're going to talk more about kind of what happens and the reactions of these people in a little bit. But I want to kind of go ahead and apply this to ourselves. And this mentality, this idea of sharing the gospel that we're familiar with, those people that are within our comfort zones. And when we think about this, I think that the first one of these questions is this: do we share, or do we make it a point to share the joy that we receive from our relationship with the Lord? Do we share the joy that we receive from the Lord? Does this look anything like our life? And no, I'm not talking about this idea of making it a point to go out and walk from city to city without any money or any shoes. I don't mean anything like that. What I'm talking about is this idea of truly bringing the kingdom of God before other people. This idea of showing people the importance of our relationship with Jesus. With this idea of telling people about our God. And at the same time, knowing that some people are not going to listen to us. As this passage continues, it even kind of tells us in the next two verses, beginning in verse 10, it tells us exactly how some of these people are going to be received. It says, "But whenever you enter a town and they do not receive you, go into its streets and say, 'Even the dust of your town that clings to our feet, we wipe off against you.' Nevertheless, know this, that the kingdom of God if you go to a town and they don't receive you." It starts off by saying, when a town does not receive you. You see, this may even be a point that we understand even easier in our own lives. This idea of a lack of reception that we might receive, or a lack of reception that we don't receive. A lot of times in our lives, we might feel like no matter how much we share the gospel, we're not going to receive any kind of reception in return. Maybe that we're not going to have people that want to listen to what we're sharing. People that really don't want anything to do with us, with the church. And as others listen to us, as others look at us in our lives, they honestly might think that we are crazy, or that we're foolish, or that we're just completely misguided. People might look at our lives and think that but there's a mission that Jesus has set before us. The same mission that Jesus set before these 72 people. And that is not letting failure stop us from sharing that joy. Not allowing those people that aren't receptive to stop us from trying to reach out to people at all. Because I'll be honest, I feel like that's what happens a lot more times than anything else. We look at this idea, we look at this concept of people that, really don't want to hear what we do. They really don't want to hear the life that we live. They don't want to hear about the church that we are a part of. And so they dismiss any ideas that we might bring to them. But as a result of that, because of our own doubts, our own insecurity on this, we decide that maybe we don't need to share this information after all. So what happened to those 72 people? They were put in that same situation. They were told to go out to these cities, and they went to some places maybe that were receptive, some places that were not. So how did they react when they went to these towns and people shut the door in their face? Because we know that they went and they showed others the kingdom. And they went and they talked about Jesus. And we see that a few verses later in Luke chapter 10, in verse 17, we see that the 72 returned with joy. See, these 72 people, they faced people that were not receptive, but they kept going. They continued to go throughout these towns and continue to share the kingdom of God with other people. And because of that, they were able to come back filled with joy because of what they had done, because they were able to reach people that were receptive. You see, when we share joy, when we continue to make it a point to share joy with other people, we receive joy. So I want to go back to this first question that's presented kind of from this. That joy with other people. We might receive, and so we. I think that something that really still exists for each and every one of us today. Whether you're still in elementary school and you've just had a show and tell, a few weeks ago, or whether it's been many years since. And I can think about in my own personal life the way that I do that. And I'll be honest with you. I really like watching good movies. I mean, I guess that makes sense because I wouldn't want movies. And honestly, I can be at times almost to the point of being annoying when I talk about good. I go to the reviews. If you've ever heard of Rotten Tomatoes, I'm obsessed with Rotten Tomatoes because they review percentages of people liked the movie versus how many percentage of people didn't like the movie. And I get kind of all into this. Really like to pay attention to the cinematography that's within a movie, or the soundtrack, or just the overall experience. At the end of a movie, how do I feel afterward? I really like it from it. But along with that, in fact, I would say probably even more, getting to share movies that I really enjoy with other people. And you can we will it's like 20 teens in a room, so it's not super easy to do that. But to let other people experience the same thing that I really like with them. The only person that does in this way. I think it's because we want people to get the enjoyment that we receive. We want other people to share in these experiences, in this joy. Mentality. And I think that's and to make joy when we, even when we buy something that we really like, we tell people about it. And it's not that we're necessarily bragging about what we have, but telling people what we enjoy. our lives. The part of our lives where you of that relationship with Jesus. When we look at that part of all. To show people the same thing really see that we see. In Mark chapter 4, these parables that he's been sharing to the people around him. He's kind of gone through some different parables, and then after the fact, he's kind of discussing the importance of a parable and what it means, and how these people that are listening to him can take that and can kind of apply that to their lives and be able to understand to these people, and he then presents another one to them, and it's the one that we read earlier this morning in Mark chapter 4. I'm going to read it again for us, beginning in verse 20. A lamp brought to be put under a basket or under a bed and not under a stand, for nothing is hidden to come to light. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. This is a very simple illustration that Jesus makes to these people. It's very easy for us to understand exactly what he's saying. And you have a lamp. Are you going to put that lamp under your bed and turn it on underneath? No, because that's not going to is on a stand. You make sure that on and it lights up. Show and tell. When sharing all of those movies that I really enjoy and like to share with others, sometimes that I remember and I recognize that some people don't have an no, it's not. Is just a but I still value it. Same way. And someone, no matter how many times that I share, whether it is a toy or a movie or even the gospel, some people might not be receptive of it, but someone at some point is going to see the value that I have. They're going to see the same value. They're going to see the same importance in the things that I value and the things that I think are important. And they're going to receive the same joy that I received from it. These 72 people that we looked at, they were the ones with their light on a stand. They were the ones that made it a point to put their light. And they put that light on a stand, and they were spreading the word of the kingdom of God. And just like these 72 passionate followers, the door closes. Because no, the gospel, that door because we've ever met. Because someone is going to share in that joy that we receive. We can't let the disinterest of other people stop us. Or stop us from telling other people about how much better our life is with Him. So I want to conclude by asking you this question. What would it take for you to share the gospel? What would it take in your life for you to decide that you're not going to let the disinterest of other people stop you from sharing in your life what is so important to you? Because if we are continuing to live our life with this show and tell mentality, it is, then are we not going to show other people and tell other people all about it and hope that other people will share in that joy that we receive? What would it take for you to share the gospel? And whatever that does take for you, are you going to commit to doing that? Are you going to do what it takes to take a step forward, to take a step out of your comfort zone, outside of the people that are already familiar with what you're sharing, and sharing the gospel with someone new? Maybe you're here this morning and you feel like been showing and then all theme. Want to other people. Or maybe you're here and you haven't yet made that decision to be a part of the church. And you want to from your God. Do for you.